January 9th, 2020 meeting of the Roswell City Council to order. Ms. Call, please call the roll.
Councilor Henderson?
Here.
Councilor Foster?
Here.
Councilor Sanchez?
Here.
Councilor Oropesa?
Here.
Councilor Robeck?
Here.
Councilor Peterson?
Here.
Councilor Best?
Here.
Councilor Moore? Here. Councilor Stubbs? Here. Mayor Kintai?
Present.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. At this time, I'll ask everyone to please rise while Councilor Foster leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance and Councilor Sanchez does the invocation. Councilor Foster.
Let us pray. Father, in the name of Jesus, we come before you. And Father, we thank you for everything that you have done, Father God, for this city. Father, as we continue and go into a new year, Father, I just pray and expect that we will do better this year than what we did last year in the decisions that we make, Father God. Father, but also I ask for your wisdom to be able to deal and be able to do something about the violence in this city, domestic violence, Father, child abuse. Father, we need your help. We need your direction. And Father, we're asking. And Father, I thank you again, like I said, for the things that you have already done. But Father, as we continue to look forward to this year, that it will be a great year. And Father, we thank you. You say to ask, and we're asking. You say whatever we ask according to your will. We know that you hear us, and we know that we receive what we ask for. Father, as the body here, the city council, and everybody else that's here, Father God, that we come into agreement. And Father, we thank you for that. And we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Councilor Stubbs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve the agenda for the January 9th, 2020 regular city council meeting to include the minutes from the December 12th, 2019, regular city council meeting, to include also the 7 resolutions that are on the consent agenda.
I have a motion by Councilor Stubbs. If you'll hit the motion button. No, motions. That's not working either. All right, thank you. I apologize, councilors. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had some system changes and we'll be a little bit rocky here. I have a motion by Councilor Stubbs and a second by Councilor Henderson to approve the agenda as presented. Any questions, comments, councilors? I'll ask for a voice vote. All those in favor of the agenda as presented, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. First up is item number 2. Let me just make a quick comment, ladies and gentlemen. Today is Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. We have 3 fine examples in the back there, men that I've worked with and have the privilege to say I've served alongside. Thank you for what you continue to do. Thank you for the people you lead. And then, Mr. Nebb, item number 3.
Okay, Mayor, City Council, thank you. I'll be very brief on this because I want to leave it up to the mayor to say a few words about this and recognize Councilor Grant for his service with the city. What I will say and what I will share is that serving the community is a difficult job. Each one of you give of your own personal time to make the right decisions to help our city move forward. It is challenging and rewarding at the same time. One of the things that I did discover with Councilor Grant is that he speaks straight, he speaks fluently, and he speaks with his heart, which is very important as to how to help move our community forward. And I can't tell you, at least with the staff's viewpoint as well too, we appreciate all of his help in trying to do the job of managing the city. But Mayor, I'm going to turn it over to you to manage, and I know Councilor Grant is in the audience, so I will go from there. So, thank you.
I wish I wasn't doing this. I really do. I wish you were still up here with me. And what most people don't get is you and I do not always agree on things, but we've always looked each other square in the face and said what we believed. And then we walked on from there. I've had the privilege of working alongside your father many long years ago when he wore the uniform of the Roswell Police Department. And I briefly knew your grandfather when we first came here. You come from a distinguished line of public servants. You've done them proud. And by the way, you're not finished. I know where you live. I expect you back in the arena. But having said all that, I want you to come forward.
Thank you, Mayor, for those kind words, and council. Never actually got to speak on this side of the dais. So I just want to thank the community really for serving them, and proud to be a part of what we achieved organizationally mainly, and also with the infrastructure projects that we were part of to better serve this community. So I just thank everyone that supported me. I enjoyed working alongside of you as long, the mayor said it best. We didn't always agree, but we did things right for Roswell. And I appreciate the staff and Joe and Mike and Louis and all of you up here, Monica, finance department. And someone that doesn't get a lot of recognition is Sharon over there. That's very important. But most of all, I want to thank my family in the back row, especially my wife, Emily, for all the support and everything for serving. So just thank you, and thanks to the community.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right. You went, oh, back again? All right. Okay, I've got one more tidbit. There's a plaque on the second floor of the terminal at the airport. It's in the conference room, and it's the plaque that was dedicated when that building was opened. And it has the city council on it. And it's very interesting because one of the city councilors is Sterling Grant, the grandfather of Caleb. Silence your cell phones, please. So one of the names of a city councilor is Sterling Grant. Another name, Steve Henderson. And on that note, we'll go to the next agenda item. Okay.
I just wanted to say a quick word of thank you to Caleb. I served with his grandfather. When Caleb came on the council, that was like 40 years ago. And Sterling was a mild-mannered guy, just like Caleb. And we got along great. He had a lot of vision, as Caleb has, over the past 6 years. You know, and I have a letterhead that has all of the names of the council members and the mayor and the manager and the purchasing agent. All those people are gone. And I just want to pay tribute to Caleb and his family for a long, dedicated public service. You know, when that 4 years that I served, 74, 78 with Sterling, didn't seem like we did a lot, but we did. We did the airport terminal. We did the library. We did the beginning of the Wool Bowl complex. We got a $50,000 recreational grant to start that. We passed a $11 million bond issue to buy water rights and put in the infrastructure on the tanks out at 6 Mile Hill. And so we look back, each council through the years has done an outstanding job of their vision and what needs to be done. About the only thing that held us back was the money. And fortunately today, with Caleb's leadership and good management from our cities, we're in good financial shape. So Caleb, I pay a special tribute to you and to your grandfather, Sterling. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. That was very kind. Mr. Nebb. Oh, Juanita Jennings. Next up, item number 4.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Tonight I have the pleasure to introduce you to a few people as we give you a presentation on the Roswell Convention and Civic Center. Tonight you're going to hear from Mr. Trent Moore, our interim facilities director. We have a special guest, Mr. Dave Anderson, our senior vice president for Spectra Venue Management, and then the general manager, Melissa Crow, who manages this facility, and then Mr. Juan Fuentes. We're going to give you an overview of the project, how it was completed, where we're at, a little financial overview, and then you're going to hear from Spectra as to current events and current processes. So for now, I would like to introduce you to Mr. Trent Moore.
Thank you, Juanita. Mayor, councilors, thank you. This portion of the presentation, again, is just another snapshot of the construction process. It also covers the timeline and a few of the delays that we encountered. And a few of the delays we encountered in the process. So we'll go ahead and get started here. The project expected to open fall of 2018. It opened shortly for the New Mexico Municipal League in August 2018. Then the convention center officially opened March of 2019. But I'll step back and go over some of the delays that we encountered. One of them was an underground tank that was found on site. This delay cost the project approximately 6 weeks to file the paperwork, to have the proper inspections done, and then the removal of the actual tank. Another delay that we ran across In the exhibit hall, the structure is supported by some lateral bracing. When the breakout rooms were removed from the east area, we found that that lateral bracing had been cut. Then again, upon further investigation, we found that it had also been removed from the west side, thus, putting the structure at a potential failure. This is what the lateral bracing looks like. It took approximately a month to complete those repairs and get everything back in order. And then we had approximate month of weather delays throughout the project. And then eventually we got to the Convention Center official opening on March 2019. I have a brief video of the construction process. Again, it's just a snapshot of the process, and we'll see if we can't get it to play now. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, councilors, I apologize. There was some audio that was supposed to go with that, but we had some technical difficulties, so I'll turn it over to Ms.
I
Jenny.
wouldn't call it technical difficulties. You're going to hear about one of the capital outlay opportunities that we have with the video from Mr. Anderson. At this time, I would like to introduce you to Melissa Crow, the General Manager for the Roswell Convention Center.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Melissa Crow. I am the new general manager of your gorgeous facility, and I thank you for the opportunity to be here in Roswell. I'm thoroughly loving this new community that I've become a member of. I would like to take a moment to introduce my extremely hardworking staff. If you're present when I announce your name, if you'll please stand up. Evan Desjardins, he's our operations manager. Christian Gruss, our sales and marketing manager. Kyla Sharp, our events manager, who has gone home sick, unfortunately, and Mark Kaufman, our new executive chef. Thank you guys for all that you do. We have 2 pending full-time positions, a finance management position and a director of events / operations that we are in the interview process for, and we should be getting those hired here very, very quickly. This shows you a comparison of our 2019 versus our 2020 events. As you can see, we have grown exponentially. Last January, there were 5 events. Currently, we have 10 going on, and we've got one more that called yesterday to sign a contract for the end of the month. February, there were 2 events in 2019. We are up to 10 currently, with 2 more potentials that are looking at the facility this next week. And in March, we are currently just slightly behind where they were last year, but we have 4 awaiting contracts that we're waiting to have signed. Current events that we have coming up that we're very excited about. The dart tournament has decided to come back for the next 3 years, and they have signed their paperwork and are very excited about the things that are coming. Jazz Festival has just signed their paperwork for the next 2 years, and we're very excited to house that event as well, as it was a great community attended event. We've also had several quinces and weddings and different things that have been going on lately that have really kind of been bringing people into the center, and we're getting lots of compliments regarding the new build-out. Several success stories that have happened in the last year. We've had the World Series Little League group that was here. Our fall festival had, I believe, close to 2,000 trick-or-treaters that came through, which was great. We've done boxing events, cooking classes, a monthly bunco, so several different things that are coming up. We just got off the phone with Galacticon this week, and they've got all kinds of fun things planned. So we're super excited about that. Event opportunities, as you can see from the list, they are very expansive. We like to think that people will think of us as a one-stop shop. You can come here, have your baby shower, have your quinceañera as you grow up, have your wedding here. We'd like to be here to help create all the memories that go along with your life. So we've got several great things happening, as you can see, and we're very excited about the next several months. I did mention that we have a new chef, and he is here as well. Current things that he's working on is a brand new menu. He is Italian trained, so he is got quite a bit of flavor that he's bringing to us. And one of the big things that he's excited about, that the community seems to be excited about, and I get asked about all the time, is the cooking classes, and those will be resuming in February. We do have a date coming up on that, Thursday, February the 6th. Outside catering-wise, we did reopen the application process, and I started November 18th, so when I started, we reopened that, and we ran it through the end of December. We mailed 26 letters, I believe, out to caterers in this area, and we met with everybody who did request a meeting. Unfortunately, we only had one person request a meeting, and they were approved. La Salsa is a approved caterer for the Civic Center. As time goes on, if others will approach us and will, go into the catering process, we are more than welcome and willing to work with anybody who'd like to come in. community involvement. Community is very important to myself and to my staff. We want to become involved. We want to become involved with this community. We want to be seen as members of this community. We currently partner with the Salvation Army to donate all leftover food from events, so that way we're not throwing them in the trash. We have several events that we're looking forward to, especially one of the ones that I'm most excited about is potentially a back-to-school expo where we can help with school supplies and backpacks for needy children as they go back to school in August. Yep.
And now I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Dave Anderson. He is the Senior Vice President for Spectra Venue Management, and he's going to go over some financials.
Good evening, everybody. First of all, thanks very much for having me, and it's an honor to manage your facility, so thank you. I just wanted to go back to the community involvement really quick. As Melissa was talking about the Back to School Bash, this is an event that we do in a number of buildings, and it's an event I do in West Palm Beach, where I'm from, and it's a single-day event in West Palm Beach, but we actually supply backpacks and school supplies to underprivileged children of families in need, and we actually do 5,000 families in one day. So we actually want to create that initiative here in Roswell on an annual basis with local business partners and with families in need. And it's a great event, and it's a kind of a mantra of ours as a company is that we, as Melissa said, is we're not just here to manage your facility. We really want to be part of a community. So we're looking forward to launching that event this year. So let me talk about capital outlay. So as part of our proposal, we have committed to $200,000 in capital investment for the facility in different areas. So to date, we have submitted $50,000 that was provided for small wares and bars, and there's $150,000 that's still remaining. So we have a list of capital projects that we kind of see as our priorities, some of which are on the screen right now. Of course, the outdoor fence area for additional event space. Typically, when we invest capital in facilities, we like to do it for revenue generating ideas, and we really see the expansion of the outdoor space as critical here. It's a common theme we're seeing throughout facilities all over the country is they're looking for a way to expand the space outside because many of the guests want to take advantage, like today's Chamber Day, so thank you for the weather today, everybody. But they want to take advantage and they want to do events outside as well. So they want to do lunch events or they want to do receptions. So by doing this fence area with some additional foliage and art, we want to actually extend the facility's footprint and be able to do events outside. The office build out, we actually want to upgrade the offices. The staff is working extremely hard and the offices haven't been upgraded in quite a while, so we want to take care of that. The security system has been upgraded here, but we do want to make a few other adjustments to it based on what we do nationally for security in our facilities. It's something that we take extremely seriously. We're a 24-hour-a-day building. A lot of times we do have staff here that are working late at night or early in the morning. We want to make sure they're safe. We want to make sure our guests safe. So we want to look at a few things to actually upgrade there. Point of sale system. So when we do shows with concessions, these point of sale systems, which I'm sure you've seen at airports, are electronic. They're very quick. People can actually use their smartphones. So you can walk up. If you're buying something here, you can actually put your smartphone right on the screen and you can purchase the product and be done in probably 30 seconds, versus the old way. So it's one of the things we're looking at. And then as it relates to audiovisual equipment, as Juanita mentioned, we want to take a look at the audiovisual equipment and the sound equipment because really sound and audiovisual are one of the most critical things at an event. And if the sound's not working and if the video's not working, it can really ruin something. So we want to look at some tweaking of some of the systems here to make sure that we have state-of-the-art. And also, we're looking at doing some technology events here, so we want to make sure that the technology in the building is such that it can support events that would be in the exhibit hall doing high-end technology events. So as far as the convention center financials from the event side, and this is through 5 months this year, so really our first full operating year. For number of events, budget through 5 months was 44. Our actual events is 52. Attendance is, budget was 14,000, so we're just under 14,000 at 13,864. On the financial end, revenue, Through 5 months, our actual gross revenue is 112 versus a budget of 274. But the staff has done a phenomenal job at controlling expenses. So you see our actual expenses through 5 months is 233 versus a budget of 486. And then our bottom line operating loss through 5 months is 120,000 versus the budget of 211. It's important for us to manage the bottom line based on revenue coming into the building, because as we talked to Juanita about this morning, any money that we can save to budget actually goes back for use within the city of Roswell. So it can go to the cultural areas, it can go to other areas to improve the city. So our goal is to try to keep the operating deficit as low as possible during every operating year. So if the revenues are not there during a particular year, we're going to make sure the expenses are such that we can make sure the bottom line is upheld. And I'm going to turn it over to Juan. I'm sorry, didn't mean to steal your thunder. I'll turn it over to Juan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councilors. So as Dave, kind of gave it a quick high overview of the financials for Spectra. What I wanted to show here is just some high-level overview of the financials with the regards to the convention center as a whole, which includes not only just Spectra, but some of our other expenses as well that it's included. So what you see here first on this slide here is a historical trend of the revenue for the convention center starting in fiscal year 2013. As you can see there, that was back then, it was only generating $31,000. And ever since then, it has grown up to $50,000 only in fiscal year 17. Fiscal year 18 was the construction year, so that's why you don't see that number there. And now going into the full fiscal year of fiscal year 19 under Spectra, as you can see there, the revenue for that year is $207,000. So for the first 6 months right now, under the current fiscal year, we are about $112,000, which is about, it's on track to either meet or exceed the revenue from last fiscal year. What's important to know with this trend is because now we're going into year 2 of the contract. And according to the contract, obviously there is a provision in there for a revenue benchmark. And that benchmark's based on the growth of the revenue, which kind of incentivizes them to do even better. So that benchmark has increased for this year. The average is about $100,000, which obviously, as you can see there, they have exceeded that. They're going to be exceeding that. Next year, that benchmark will move up. They have to do better to be able to meet that and so forth. So what I wanted to show in this slide here is he talked about the revenue and expenses specifically in regards to just Spectra. And what you see here are the budgeted to actual expenses of the convention center as a whole. And as he mentioned, they've done a good job in controlling expenses and while also trying to improve the revenue. So what you see here on fiscal year end 19, you see the budget, although the budget was at 1.1, they only spent about $700,000, which was only about 61% of the budgeted amount. They controlled the expenses. Going into fiscal year in 20, even though we budgeted $1.3 million, they're only about 317, which is about in line with what it was last year. So they're still doing a good job controlling expenses, and obviously we still have 6 months to go. But again, the trend appears to be that they're probably going to be in line with what last year, what it was last year. So what's financing the convention center debt is obviously it's the $2.50 bed fee that the council approved and dedicated for the convention center, not only for the debt service, but also for operations. And what you see here is a 3-year trend of that bed fee. And what you'll see is in fiscal year in 18, for the total year, it was about $654,000 that was collected. And in fiscal year 19, we were about $721,000. So for this current fiscal year, for the first 5 months, which is what you see there, we are about $316,000. So when we look at the trends and we look at the numbers of what is coming in to service the debt and operations, and we compare the same period to last year, we're about the same time frame, about 316. So and that kind of just when we see those numbers, we always like to kind of dive a little bit deeper and kind of ask questions about what might be occurring out there, because we've been seeing growth every year. And with that, I'm going to ask Juanita to come on up and share some of her thoughts on that revenue trend.
So when we looked at the report for the convention center bed fees that are being collected, if you look at the September numbers, you'll notice that there's been a little bit of a decline. We've had some conversations about who are the people that are staying in the hotels that pay this $2.50 fee. And what we're starting to see is the decline in September, October, November. We have actually just partnered with, it's called Star Report, thanks to our new special event and outreach manager, Stephanie Mervine. She has a very strong background in hotels, and as we were going over the reporting and lodgers tax collection, as she will be responsible for that, one of the things that she mentioned to us is this report that we can get from our current hotels here that will give us a better analysis and better data as to who is really staying into our hotels. And so when you look at the trend, when the trend starts going down, that's telling us that it's not so much leisure travels, it's long-term stays. Because on day 30, those individuals no longer have to pay that $2.50. And so by us subscribing to this report, we will get better analysis and better data to project where we're going to be in collections for a year out, 2 years out. It is something that we started to look at in October when we first saw the initial dive. We're not the only community that is seeing this trend right now, and I hope to report more information to this council as we are monitoring it very closely.
Thank you, Juanita. So even though we've seen that trend, again, the good news is that we are still on track to at least meet the revenue goal that we have, that we received last year. So when we look at the money that it brings in to service the debt and the revenue and the debt service, we're looking at there for fiscal year 19, for example, we brought in $721,000. Our debt payment was $554,000, which, so we allocate about 77% of the total revenue received towards debt. The rest of it goes towards operations and capital outlay of the convention center. So there's still room there, so we feel confident that every year we're going to have sufficient revenue stream to service that debt in the future. And with that, Mr. Mayor and councilors, thank you, and we'll stand for any questions.
All right, thank you. Councilors, you can use your request to speak if you wish to jump in here. You've dazzled us. All right. Well. Hey, Councilor Henderson.
I'm a little fuzzy on this, but I understood the legislature had either passed a bill or was considering passing a bill that dealt with the long-term stay and the revenues that the cities were hoping to get from those, the lodgers tax or the room fees.
So, yes, as of January 1st, the state redefined, it was Section G of the lodgers tax code, and Airbnbs are now supposed to be reporting. There is more conversation about the long-term stays, and we are participating in the Trends Conference at the beginning of February to educate us further on what that means for our ordinance. We do have about 58 of those properties here. When it comes to long-term stays on day 30, that section of the law did not change. So what we're seeing on our trends of collections, we have a lot of federal employees that are staying at our hotels. In the initial STAR report that we received, a lot of our hotels, there's about 12 that are economy hotels. That's a telling story for us already because they're affordable for those federal employees that are coming for a long period of time, also for those individuals that are in the oil and gas sector. So on day 30, they no longer have to pay that $2.50 to the city because of the law.
Thank you. I had a question of Trent. I notice in the report that that the staff is having to deal with a lot of I would call them whodunit audits on leaks and mechanical problems and maybe some leaks from the outside into the building. Or do we have a system by which we're trying to solve all those problems?
Yes, Counselor. Our normal preventative maintenance that we do in the facilities department we come and service the equipment in the building and look at the roofs and items like that. I'm unaware of any substantial leaks and things that we've had other than normal wear and tear items on the existing area.
I just was reading the report, and there were a number of, I don't know, leaks from the water fountains, or I don't know, I could review that, but I would assume that the general contractor still has the responsibility to make good the necessary quality that we expect in this building.
Yes, sir. I apologize, Mr. Henderson. I misunderstood the question a little. Yes, we have a 3-year warranty with the contractor on this facility. They do have a warranty repair program. It's an online program. We submit the items that need to be repaired, and they have been very responsive to come out and repair those items.
Okay. All righty, and I guess the other comment, Mr. Mayor, was maybe for Spectra. I think you mentioned that you had a backpack program that you have done other places. I would just mention to you that the Roswell Rotary Club has a backpack program that I would hope that maybe we could partner with you on. I think that particular program has to do with weekend food for the children that are in need, and so they use those backpacks for weekend food. But sounds like yours is something a little different, but we'd like to, our club, I'm sure, would like to talk to you about that, see if we can partner.
Yeah, absolutely. And to just give you a quick update, in Palm Beach, it started out with 2 organizations, and we did what you're talking about. Is there was a number of organizations in Palm Beach County that were doing similar stuff. So we actually got together with them all, and so we wanted to take care of everyone. So we absolutely will reach out to you, and we'll reach out to the group. And we eventually want to take it beyond backpack first year, but we second year and third year we actually had medical people that were offering their time. They were doing checkups for individuals, children, and parents there, and food and clothing drives at the same time. So it's a really, really great event. So I look forward to working with you and anybody else that has an organization.
We'll try to follow up with you on that. Yep. And just one other thing, on our electronic sign, I would hope that over time we'd be able to get more community communication on that sign, the digital sign.
Yep.
And Juanita, I'm not sure how you handle that information coming into this facility when we're under contract, but I would hope to see more announcements of community activities on that sign rather than just Spectra manages the property.
Yes, sir. We will make sure to include that. Any events that are held here, they do get it at no cost, but we will also work with Melissa and their marketing team to ensure that we have community events that are on there as well, at no cost.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, councilors. I see no one else wishing to speak, so we will move on to item number 5. Councilor Stubbs. Request to speak? Okay, go ahead. Yes, why don't you go make a motion?
Sorry, we didn't rehearse this.
We didn't rehearse this.
At Mayor Kentai's recommendation, I move to approve Margaret Kennard to fill the vacant unexpired city council position for Ward 2 to serve until the March 2022 regular city council election.
I have a motion by Councilor Stubbs and a second by Councilor Foster to approve the nomination of Ms. Margaret Kennard for the unexpired, excuse me, term. Mr. Neb.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, this one slide here kind of explains what needs to happen. With Councilor Grant's resignation as of January 1st, the state statute reads that any vacancy on the governing body shall be filled by appointment with a qualified elector by the mayor and the municipality. Ms. Kennard has been confirmed as an elected qualifier, so she is available for consideration. And so it is up to the mayor, with the advice and consent of the governing body, to make that appointment. So that is all. That's the state statute. It's up there for you to read. So thank you.
Ms. Kennard, do you want to come on up? This wasn't rehearsed either.
No, it wasn't.
All right. You want to share a few words with the council?
I would just like to thank you, Mayor, for the consideration and the nomination. And I would like to thank the councilors who were able to meet with me and discuss the city with me. I am honored to be given this opportunity to serve the city. And so I would appreciate your vote.
Okay, thank you. Councilors, any questions for Ms. Kennard? Any comments? No questions, no comments. All right. Ms. Call, I'm going to ask for a roll call vote. A yes or aye confirms the appointment of Ms. Kennard to the unexpired position on the City Council that will run until March of 22. A no or nay rejects the nomination. Ms. Call, please call the roll.
Counselor Henderson,
Yes?
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Sanchez,
Yes.
Counselor Ordopesa,
Yes.
Counselor Roback,
Yes.
Counselor Peterson,
Yes.
Counselor Best,
Yes.
Counselor Moore, Counselor Stubbs.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimous.
Thank you.
All right, what we're planning on is, it is by my count, my clock here, 6:48. We will take a 15-minute recess. During that recess, I believe there's a judge in the room. Your Honor, how surprising you're here, who will administer the oath of office. There'll be a few photographs, and then welcome to the council. So I have 6:48, 15 minutes from now is 7:03. We are in recess
Mr.
until
Mayor.
7:03.
Just an FYI, it's me here. So we did set up one of the breakout rooms for the use of the swearing in, so that they can have a little bit of space for that to be done.
Well,
So
I thought we were going to do it here, right in front, so everybody could see
are we
it.
going to? Either one.
Let's
Mayor's
do it here.
preference. All right.
All right, till 7:03.
Down here at the bottom.
Hey, it happens to all of us, so it's, yeah.
It's really not a new thing. It's been that was already forever. It's a big to do when it was passed.
trying to get there, a little more and more practice. It's all right.
Your rehearsal went well.
I know I was in my office today at about the last hour. Just
I really like the hand puppets though with the video. That would have worked very well.
I'm the person that does the study. Thank you. Okay, out.
Because it's
Yeah,
embedded,
that's right.
the system does not pick up the audio. And so we have to fix it.
stick, just so that,
You know, we got to get that updated, so. Good job.
Yeah, it went well.
Slides look good.
It was blue. Did you see it?
Oh, great.
Yep, I saw it. I saw it.
I mean, we can, I don't know. I'll look at it.
All right, Trent. Well, good job. So,
I tried, that's through it a little bit. Yep. I think
I mean, it depends on how big it is, right? Is it big? Is it like center of the room?
right. Well, I had audio, but when they embedded it, it didn't take. Yeah, that's what I did.
Ladies and gentlemen, can we have a moment while the swearing on takes place? Moment of silence, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to tell you that it's a great honor for me to swear in my daughter. So if you would, ma'am, left hand of the Bible, raise your right hand. Repeat after me, please. I, Margaret Rogers Kennedy,
I, Margaret Rogers Kennard,
having been appointed to
having been appointed to
the office of City Councilor, Ward 2,
the office of City Councilor, Ward 2,
in the city of Roswell,
in the city of Roswell,
state of New Mexico,
state of New Mexico,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the state of New Mexico,
of the state of New Mexico,
and faithfully
and faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of said office
of said office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Councilwoman Margaret Kennedy.
This microphone. Well, sir,
I forgot how to handle the control. I think there was a couple here that wanted to talk about, at least that I saw on the list, about the planning zone.
See the green light came on?
Good or bad?
You're live.
I didn't hear how it went through planning and zoning. Yeah, there's like, looks like about 10 to 15 homes in it. So, yep.
That's almost backfill.
But I don't know of anybody here that's. Going from 60 to 70 and then setting for future based upon the district judge.
I didn't make a comment earlier. Not spending it over budget.
No, and that's the thing is that, well, I know when I'm out here cold calling here, because the whole idea is to bring in people that we don't normally get. And so,
It's early.
well, yeah, I know.
But I just like it was that and just facility, it's not just so those numbers are down because that's just one. There's only one bit of data on that, so
Yeah.
We'll see what next year brings.
And this is supposed to be an overall snapshot, and so the thing is that we'll be able to track it and make sure that
2 minutes, councilors. We will reconvene in 2 minutes.
Yep.
Are you bad?
At 7:03, I'm calling the City Council meeting of January 9th, 2020 back into order. Let me quickly note for anyone's interest that Ms. Councilwoman Kennard's assignments will be to the Finance Committee and to the Infrastructure Committee. Those were the committees that Councilor Grant had served on. Councilor Henderson is serving as the Chair of Finance, and Councilor Roebuck is the Vice Chair. After the elections in March, committee assignments will be readjusted for the new council. All right, moving on to item number 6. Councilor Best.
Okay, this is for proposed ordinance 20-01. I make a motion to approve including the amendment of Article 2, Livestock, Section 4-15, keeping prohibited in the residential areas by adding the following as the last sentence. Yeah. Mike, you want to go from there? You want to read the sentence?
Go ahead. You need to.
Oh, I need a second.
No, you need to read the amendment.
Nothing in this article shall be considered to aggregate or otherwise affect any contractual limitations on the keeping of livestock within the city limits, including, without limitations, any restrictions found in restrictive covenants, homeowners association agreements, or regulations, or other obligations running with the land.
And I have a motion by Councilor Best and a second by Councilor Foster to approve proposed ordinance 20-01 with the amendment read. Mr. Matthews.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. I'm pleased to present tonight proposed ordinance 20-01, which is the ordinance amending Chapter 4 of the City Code relating to animals and fowl within the city limits. Public Safety has worked on this rewrite of this code for the last 5 months in the Public Safety Committee. The current code has not been updated for many years and created much confusion for our officers and also our public. These updates this updates and reorganizes Chapter 4, provides clarity and improvements for implementation. All fees have been removed and were actually approved tonight on the consent agenda in resolution form, by the way. City Council did vote at the December meeting to hold a public hearing and vote on this item tonight. And at this time, Mayor, I'd like to recognize some of the groups and some of the people that really worked on this over the last 5 months. As I said, over the last 5 months, we've been working on a total rewrite of Section 4 of the City Code. We spent 8.5 hours in committee discussing this one topic. Many nights, or several nights, it went late into the evening after dark as we discuss these things. So I want to give a special thanks to the Public Safety Committee, Chair Janine Best-Korn, who chaired that and kept everybody focused in the discussions. Councilor Moore, Councilor Foster, and Councilor Henderson for their time and effort put into helping us to build a document that is usable not only for our staff but for our public. So we appreciate that. Also, I'd like to recognize our city staff, especially our deputy city attorney, who spent hours after we would go through committee and make changes, and then he'd spend the next 30 days getting everything put back together, and we'd present it again the next month and make more changes. So Parker Patterson done a phenomenal job, and we appreciate his efforts in this very large undertaking. Megan Tejas, who is our animal service, our kennel manager at the animal shelter, she was an integral part of every one of the discussions we had. She's come from another facility, so she was able to bring those experiences, and we could apply much of that here in our city. Of course, the entire animal control staff, the Roswell Police Department command staff, Roswell Humane Society directors. I list Dr. Albers separately because he's also on that board, and he brings experience as many years as a veterinarian here in our community. I've spoken to some of them tonight, and it wasn't my intention if I forgot anybody, but from Forgotten to Forever Rescue, Friends of Roswell Animals, Peace of Mind Rescue, and the many volunteers from these groups that worked with us to produce a document that is acceptable, usable by our citizens and our employees. So at this time, Mayor, if you'd like to have the public hearing, I'll have staff available after that, and we'll be glad to answer any questions you have.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Matthews. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing. We did have one individual sign up to speak on this, Ann Edwards, but anyone can speak on this at this time. So I'm going to call on Ms. Edwards, since she did sign up to speak on this. Is Ms. Edwards present? Please state your name, address, and you will have 3 minutes, ma'am.
Thank you. My name is Anna Edwards, 1212 West 7th. And so often when it comes to animals, you hear the negative part of it. So when something's been done right, and these ordinances, I believe, are right, we need to thank you also. And I want to thank some specific individuals, Megan from the city animal shelter, Mike Matthews and Mike Taylor for being the right people at the right time to spearhead this revamping of the ordinances, to the city council for being there and listening, to the rescues that attended and gave their input, and Parker for making sense of all this. When I did mediations, I was told that a good outcome is when everybody walks away and nobody gets everything that they want, but the outcome is fair. So they put in politicians, bureaucrats, animal advocates, law enforcement to keep all of them from killing each other, and an attorney in case someone did. What happened is 5 months later, they walked out of that meeting room with a good outcome. These ordinances are fair, they're enforceable, and I would hope that they are passed. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Since, no, we don't do that. Sorry. No, we don't applaud. When we get into the legislative action here, ladies and gentlemen, this is serious business. You've heard this 5 months. So we don't cheer, we don't boo, we don't applaud, we don't hiss. We respect the process and appreciate the diligent work of others. So it's kind of a solemn occasion in that sense. This is a public hearing, as I stated earlier. And once again, I will repeat that anyone may speak on this, even if you did not sign up like Ms. Edwards. So at this point, I will call on anyone wishing to speak in opposition to proposed ordinance 20-01. Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Let record reflect no one chose to speak in opposition. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in support of proposed ordinance 20-01? Anyone wishing to speak in support? Let record reflect no one chose to speak in support. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on this matter at all? Let the record reflect that no one chose to speak on this matter. Councilors, I will now turn to you. Anyone wishing to discuss this matter? Questions, comments? I have Councilor Foster, but go ahead and use the request to speak. Okay. We're using half the system. Okay. All right. Councilor Foster and then Councilor Henderson. Councilor Foster, you have the floor.
Well, I can't believe it was only 5 months, and 8.5 hours. I think that was just one of the meetings. But I do remember, and I don't know the exact. Was there 70 sections before? What was the amount, the sections prior?
Yeah, about 70.
And we've cut it down to 39. Right. And a lot of it was just redundant. So Parker did an awesome job of going from 70 sections of ordinances to one ordinance to 39. So I appreciate that. And I do appreciate all the volunteers that came and spent those 8.5 hours. And I don't want to hear Councilor Best ever say line by line again, ever again. But thank y'all.
All right. Thank you, Councilor. I have Councilor Henderson. Councilor Henderson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I just, Mike, I appreciate the staff and your efforts, our attorney, the committee, the dedication, hours of work, the tenacity that took to get this job done. And I just want to express my appreciation because it was a marathon, but I think in the end we won. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councilor. And I have Councilor Best, and that exhausts my list. Councilor Best, you have the floor.
It has been absolutely amazing how easy this worked. And it worked so easy, I hate to tell you, Foster, that we're going to do it line by line in other committees because they liked what we did. So they liked it so much, we're going to use this as a schooling for some other committees for other ordinances. But This was amazing. It was easy. It was good. May not have been easy for Parker and Mike, but Megan coming in here with stuff from other cities, we didn't have to reinvent the wheel. We were able to rock on, and we hit a few speed bumps, but we did great. So I'm really proud of what our council, getting together with all of our groups, did. It works good, and we're going to move on with some more things for our animals, and they won't be left behind again. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That exhausts my list. At this point, I'll ask for a vote. This is going to have to be a roll call vote since it is an ordinance. A yes or aye approves proposed ordinance 20-01. A no or nay rejects it. And it's 20-1 as presented with the addition at the time of introduction. So once again, a yes or aye approves 20-01. A no or nay rejects it. Ms. Call, please call the roll.
Counselor Henderson?
Yes.
Counselor Foster?
Yes.
Counselor Sanchez?
Yes.
Counselor Oropesa?
Yes.
Counselor Robeck?
Yes.
Counselor Peterson?
Yes.
Counselor Kinnard?
Yes.
Counselor Best?
Yes.
Counselor Moore? Counselor Stubbs?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right, next up, item number 7. Counselor Stubbs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is at the recommendation of the Legal Committee, and council did approve for this public hearing last month, that I move to hold a public hearing and approve proposed ordinance 20-02, which is amending section 24-1 of the Roswell City Code and adopting the most recent version of the Uniform Traffic Ordinance.
I have a motion by Counselor Stubbs and a second by Counselor Foster to approve proposed ordinance 20-02. Mr. Holloman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Ordinance 20-02 has to do with the Uniform Traffic Ordinance. This is a piece of legislation that is put together by the New Mexico Municipal League. Once adopted by the city, it allows the officers to cite into municipal court for traffic violations. It largely follows the state statutes for traffic violations. What this ordinance does is, as we have been reviewing the process, the city has adopted the Uniform Traffic Ordinance in the past. The Municipal League will issue periodic updates. Most usually, it is immediately following a legislative session. We identified some problems with the way that it had been adopted before, where the language said that it was adopted once promulgated. We felt like that created confusion among some of the officers, confusion among maybe even the public. We wanted to create a situation that made this clearer what version would be adopted. So this ordinance makes 2 changes to our adoption by reference of the Uniform Traffic Code. First thing it does is it requires annual adoption by the City Council. So one more housekeeping item, but we think that it's important to establish clearly what dates and what materials are being adopted. Second thing it does is that it reiterates what version of the code the city is currently using. Right now it would be the 2018 version of the code, of the version promulgated by the Municipal League currently in force. We do have, they have been working on the 2019 version. There's been some confusion with it, and it has made some rather large changes to the Uniform Traffic Ordinance. In fact, we've received an updated email on the first part of this month noting that there were additional changes. So our plan for that is for 2019, we're going to take our time to make sure that we've had the ability to meet with the police department, the municipal court, to make sure that everybody's on the same page. Any updates that need to be made for handouts to patrol officers, that those are made. With that, Mayor and Council, I would stand for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holloman. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, this is a public hearing. Even if you did not sign up to speak on this matter, you may speak on this matter. So at this time, I will call on anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in opposition of proposed ordinance 20-02. Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition of proposed ordinance 20-02? Let the record reflect no one chose to speak in opposition. Is there anyone present who wishes to speak in support of proposed ordinance 20-02? Is there anyone here wishing to speak in support of proposed ordinance 20-02? Let the record reflect no one chose to speak in support. Finally, is there anyone wishing to speak on this matter at all? Mr. Conley, will you please come forward, state your name and your address, and you will have 3 minutes.
Larry Conley, 2815 in Cantle. The only thing I would like to say is I hope next year we have a better picture of the police car. Thank you.
Mr. Conley, don't quit your day job. You're not ready for the comedy club. Anyone else wishing to speak on this matter? Let the record reflect there was no one else who came forward besides Mr. Larry Conley. I will return to the council. Anyone in the council? Questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll ask for a vote. This will once again be a roll call vote. A yes or aye approves proposed ordinance 20-02. A no or nay rejects it. Ms. Call, please call the roll.
Counselor Henderson?
Yes.
Counselor Foster?
Yes.
Counselor Sanchez?
Yes.
Counselor Oropesa?
Yes.
Counselor Robeck?
Yes.
Counselor Peterson?
Yes.
Counselor Kennard?
Yes.
Counselor Best?
Yes.
Counselor Moore? Yes. Counselor Stubbs?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, items number 8 through 15 on the agenda were approved when the agenda was adopted, as they are part of what's called the consent agenda. We will now move on to item number 16. Counselor Stubbs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve Mayor Kentai's recommendation for appointment to the Roswell Public Library Board of Trustees, Jennifer Cole, position number 5.
Motion by Counselor Stubbs and a second by Counselor Foster to approve the appointment of Jennifer Cole to the Roswell Public Library Board of Trustees, position 5. Ms. Call, you're running back and forth.
My exercise. Good evening, Mayor, council members. Thank you, Ms. Stubbs, Counselor Stubbs, for doing this for me. 7 members on the Board of Trustees, 2 4-year terms, and as you heard, Counselor Stubbs, the recommendation of the mayor is Jennifer Cole, and I stand for any questions.
All right. Counselors, any questions, comments on this matter? Seeing none, I will ask for a voice vote.
Okay.
Counselors, a yes or aye approves the appointment of Jennifer Call to the position 5 on the Roswell Public Library Board of Trustees. A no or nay rejects the nomination. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, passes unanimously 10-0. Next up, item number 17. Counselor Stubbs.
Okay, I'm sorry. Mr. Mayor, due to the fact that we could not get a legal committee majority for quorum, I guess, for a meeting, we have several items on this agenda that are have not gone through committee, so we're handling them one at a time. So bear with us. I move to approve the renewal lease between the City of Roswell, New Mexico and Air Sales, Inc., which is for building number 240, consisting of 16,286 square feet, and the fence surrounding the building at the Roswell Air Center. This is for a term of 5 years, commencing February 1st, 2020, and ending on January 31st, 2025, at an annual rent of $46,092, which is a 15% increase, and that's for the first year, and thereafter the rent will be adjusted annually by the CPI or 3%, whichever is greater. subject to all the terms and conditions of the lease.
I have a motion by Counselor Stubbs and a second by Counselor Peterson to approve the lease of Building 240 and surrounding area to AirSail Incorporated, a Florida corporation. Mr. Bleth.
Basically, I can reiterate what Councilor Stubbs just said, but what we have here is a lease that we normally would do that would put on the consent. Would you like me to repeat all the terms and conditions?
No, I think we can read.
Okay.
All right. Any questions or comments from Mr. Bleth on this matter? I have Counselor Oropesa and Counselor Henderson. Counselor Oropesa, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want a clarification concerning the insurance.
They pay the insurance.
I'm sorry?
They pay the insurance, fire insurance.
Okay. Does the city not, I guess the clarification that I need to get is what kind of insurance is provided for the buildings out there? Because this one says that the city will pay for it and then they get reimbursed.
Correct. We get the bill, we pay it, and then we invoice them for it. Because we don't know what it is at the time of when the leases are done.
Does the city not be, isn't the city covered by the self-fund through the New Mexico Municipal League?
On this insurance, yes.
Yeah, all of our buildings are covered by the self-insured fund. We have to pay into that for the buildings, and then we pass that cost through to the lessees as part of their cost.
Is that general practice for city buildings?
In a lot of cases, there's a lot of different types of leases out there, like triple net, and which cover, the renter covers all of the expenses associated with the building. There's different ways of doing that. This has been in practice for the city of Roswell for a number of years. And so what we do is we go ahead and cover the insurance within our umbrella, and then we pass that on because of our, and we pass the cost on for that portion. So it is common practice. I don't know how many other places are doing it the same way, but it is fairly common within leasing and renting.
So who determines the premiums for the insurance if it's self-insured?
We help work with the insurance company, the self-insured pool. They come out and do an audit of the buildings. We determine what the replacement value is as well as what the current value is, and we set essentially a replacement price on the building if it was to be lost for any kind of an emergency. And so we assist the self-insurance pool, but the adjuster or the auditor, the insurance auditor, comes out and helps set those numbers on what the value of that building is.
And the Civic Center, Spectra, do they work under the same conditions?
I'm not sure if our insurance is covered within that as being that relationship. It's a little bit different type of relationship with Spectra here, is that Spectra has an operating agreement for our facility. And out there, we have people that are utilizing our space. We have nothing to do with their business. And so they are different types of leases. I'm just not sure if like this operating lease here has a clause in there that they pay for the insurance, they reimburse us back because of the way the relationship is with Spectra. So the agreements are different types of agreements.
Okay.
And because they're not leasing the building from us here, they're operating the facility for us. If that does that help with that difference? Okay.
Yeah, to me, it seems like if we have renters out there, they don't really have any vested interest in the building because they don't own it. And so it seems like the ones that have the vested interest in making sure that those buildings are protected would be the city.
Right. And that cost is passed along. Now, we don't have any ability to go in there and tell them to remove stuff out of the building that could be potentially hazardous to the building either. So we have no control over exactly what may cause the emergency from inside of the building. outside of what our agreement
Right,
is.
within our lease, we do say that they can't
They have to
do
do a
anything.
certain use and
Right.
everything. So the challenge we have with it is that, and I believe this has been in the leases for a long time. This is not a new piece as well, too, So all of our leases out there, because we are just leasing them the space out there, have this clause built into their agreement. And it can be done a couple different ways, as you allude to, so.
So even if it's occupied or unoccupied, the building is still covered by the New Mexico Municipal
Correct.
League fund?
An unoccupied building, we are covering that cost for that space.
So when you say
Fully.
we're covering that cost, is that through the fee that the city pays to the New Mexico Municipal League, or is that a separate fee for the insurance?
That's out of the budget for the Air Center.
No, I know it comes out from the budget, but is it a separate fee that the New Mexico Municipal League charges for insurance?
It is not. It
It's
is
not-
not.
it's-
Each building has a cost associated with it. So all of our properties have a cost associated. They lump it together into what the city's payment is, and then we separate back out for the buildings that we are leasing out. If they are not leased to somebody, then there's nobody to pass that cost on to.
I guess what I'm trying to determine is we pay the New Mexico Municipal League a certain amount of money to be members.
We pay a premium for coverage of our buildings. I don't know if I don't believe there is truly a membership fee that's associated with that. We are part of the pool that is associated. It's a small group pool for all the municipalities in the state of New Mexico that want to belong to that pool. And so we are paying the premiums. There is no membership fee for being part of the pool. The pool takes their funding out of the fees that we are paying into the building. It's built into the
It's all built into the
cost.
same, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Counselor. I have Counselor Henderson and Counselor Stubbs. Counselor Henderson, you have the floor.
Just to back up, the dues, Juan, are separate from the fees that we pay for the insurance. A quick question, Mark. I noticed that this particular lease has a 15% increase, which is certainly more than we usually see up here. And then the second part of it, would you comment on the activity out there for air sale? Are they doing anything?
To the first point, if you look at the price per square foot that they're currently at, under their current lease, what they're at now, it's about $245 a square foot. If we look at there's not many comps in town. We have about one comp we can look at this moment, and that's between $3.80 and $4 a square foot. So that's about as close as comp. Now that company obviously has a profit motivation. They have debt against that building. They have other property taxes that they have to pay. So we don't really have the same cost that they would have for that building. So to move them from $245 a square foot to $283 is getting closer to our target, where we're looking at getting all the buildings out there. And right now we're currently developing a chart on different types of buildings, where we have Class C, which is kind of the rundown buildings, which unfortunately some of them are. Class B, which is a fairly decent building in good shape, and Class A, which is kind of top of the line. Needless to say, there's not many Class A's. We do have some Class B's out there and a lot of Class C's. So we're building different categories, air side versus non-air side. So we're trying to move towards that target of this particular property would be targeted at about $4. So right now we're working on a plan on how do we get there. So it is a significant jump, normal from what you're normally seeing, but it also tapers off over the next 4 years as well, where it's back down to 3, and so on, unless CPI is higher. So this is just trying to get the air center in line. My understanding, the vision of the city is to get the air center into a much better position financially, and this is one of the ways we're going about that.
Good. You want to comment on their activity?
Their activity, they're working with Air Wisconsin right now, doing some heavy sea checks for them. They've completed one and they're working on a second one. And if that happens, that could be 2 additional lines of work for them. So that's additional employees. Right now they're using contract maintenance, A&Ps that they're bringing in on a temporary basis, just to make sure they get that work, and then they'll hire full-time. So AirSale's doing well. Recently they went public, so now they're not a privately held company anymore, but a publicly held company.
About how many employees?
I think they're around 165.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Stubbs, and that exhausts my list. You have the floor, Counselor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, excuse me. I just want to clear up one thing before we continue, and that is the New Mexico Municipal League is their own organization to which we pay dues for the services that we receive. The New Mexico Municipal League administers the New Mexico Self-Insures Fund, of which our city manager is a member of their independent, they have their own board. So the league administers the fund, but we pay separately to the league as a member and then to the fund for the insurance. So thank you for indulging me. Let me just very quickly, I wanted to bring everyone's attention to, you have included in the packet, like we always do, the standard leases that we use at the Air Center, and I'm on page 67 of this particular packet, and you'll see number 10, insurance, and maybe be interested in number 11, damage or destruction of premises. So these things are covered, and it does say that the landlord provides fire and extended coverage, and that the lessee will reimburse the landlord. It also says that the tenant shall maintain in full force and effect a policy or policies of general public liability insurance. It also goes into discussing the tort claim and that sort of thing. But this is standard for our leases, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Blatt.
Yes, it is standard.
So that's typically covered. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, that exhausts my list. Is there anyone else wishing to comment on this one? If not, I'll ask for a voice vote. A yes or aye approves the authorization of the lease with AirSale Incorporated as presented. A no or nay rejects the lease. Once again, a yes or aye approves the lease with AirSale Incorporated, a Florida corporation. A no or nay rejects it. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any opposed, say nay. Hearing none, passes unanimously 10-0. Next up, item number 18, Councilor Stubbs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This again did not go through committee, so there's no recommendation. But I move to approve the lease between the City of Roswell, New Mexico and Cleanup Enterprise Incorporated at the Roswell Air Center. This is building number 67, consisting of 978 square feet for a lease term of 1 year, commencing on February 1st, 2020 and ending on January 31st, 2021, at an annual rent of $1,788. This is a rent adjustment of 30%, and this is subject to all the terms and conditions of the lease.
I have a motion by Councilor Stubbs and a second by Councilor Peterson to approve the lease with Cleanup Enterprise as presented. Mr. Bleth.
Other than restating everything, if you have any questions on why 30% versus 15, this is a very small dollar amount lease. This is $115 a month. It's going up to $149 a month. Basically, it's just used for storage. If you look at any storage facility in town, you pay probably about $3 a square foot for a large storage area at a storage facility. And this takes them up to $1.83 a square foot from $1.41. So we're moving them up as well.
Okay, thank you. Questions, comments? Councilor Henderson, you have the floor.
Well, I'm just curious about the name of the company.
Janitorial service.
Cleanup Enterprises Incorporated, a New Mexico sole proprietor. You can't be a sole proprietor and be incorporated.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the incorporated needs to be removed from that slide.
Well, I question the name.
All right, any other questions or comments, councilors? Councilor Orpesa, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to, well, I'm not going to make the assumption, I'm going to ask a question. These contracts that come before us, have they been, have you gotten together with the companies and have they agreed to the terms already or?
With our aviation-type customers, our customers that provide jobs, the customers that have multiple facilities, aviation-related companies, those typically are long discussions for negotiations. These type of things are more commodity-based. It's not our line of business is to provide storage for non-aviation type customers, so these aren't negotiated.
So we can pretty much assume that the 15% that was on the previous contract, that discussion was already held with AeroSail?
We've had multiple discussions with AirSail over all the pricing, so yes.
So, and they are in agreement with it? Or?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
All right, other questions or comments? If not, I will ask for a vote on this. I'll ask for a voice vote. A yes or aye approves the lease with Cleanup Enterprises. A no or nay rejects the lease. Once again, a yes or aye approves Cleanup Enterprise lease as presented. A no or nay rejects it. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Hearing none, passes unanimously 10-0. Next up, item number 19, Councilor Stubbs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the third lease that we didn't have a quorum for a committee meeting, and that's why I may explain why I'm reading so much of the leases, because it's not documented in any legal committee minutes, so I'm documenting it here, if that's okay. I move to approve the lease between the City of Roswell, New Mexico, and New Mex Plastics Incorporated. This is for a portion of building number 112B, consisting of 21,960 square feet, more or less, at the Roswell Air Center. The term of this lease is 1 year, commencing February 1st, 2020, ending January 31st, 2021, at an annual rent with a 15% increase, $28,368. This is subject to all the terms and conditions of the lease.
I have a motion by Councilor Stubbs and a second by Councilor Peterson to approve the lease with New Mex Plastics Incorporated. Mr. Bluff.
This is similar to the previous lease where it is a non-aviation business in a non-aviation building, and so it's just space that we're renting them.
Okay, questions or comments for Mr. Bleth? Seeing none, I'll ask for a voice vote. A yes or aye approves the lease with New Mex Plastics. A no or nay rejects it. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, passes unanimously 10-0. Next up, item number 20, Councilor Stubbs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. See what happens when we don't have a quorum. At the November council meeting, we approved the recommendation to award the RFP for advertising to 3 Advertising. Again, there was no quorum at the legal meeting, so I'm just moving to approve the contract for advertising and marketing services with 3 Advertising LLC, including the Exhibit A, which is the agency services, for a term from December 1st, 2019 through November 30th, 2020.
I have a motion by Counselor Stubbs and a second by Counselor Peterson to approve the contract with 3 Advertising.
Good
Ms.
evening,
Jennings.
Mayor, Council. To give you a little bit of background, we did open up the RFP. We had 2 submissions. The recommendation from that review committee did recommend 3 Advertising. It came before you to allow our city manager, Mr. Nebb, to enter into the negotiation. So at this point, Mr. Nebb and 3 Advertising have reviewed the contract and have agreed to the terms listed in the contract. I did want to kind of go over a little bit of the reason 3 was selected and what is different about this contract from our previous agency last year and the year before. This one is really based on the creativity and overall strategy from an economic development perspective and storytelling of the city of Roswell. It will have focus on tourism, but primarily the focus will be business travelers, the air center, and also the co-op grant funding with the state tourism department. For 3 Advertising, I listed some of their experience. Their current clients include New Mexico United, Presbyterian, P&M, Cliffs Amusement Park. They do have a lot of experience in digital and television. Their tourism partners, as you can see listed on the screen, they have a team. They're based out of Albuquerque and Washington, D.C. They have talked with me over the phone. We have a sample template in the budget on the contract that you will see. This is just a sample because we need to really discuss the creative strategy moving forward for the Air Center. And so what we wanted to do is just kind of give you an overview of how that budget will look. And so I did list their scope of work. Their scope of work obviously is marketing and advertising, so it's the media buying. They're going to get us the best rate for our dollar for all of the marketing that is done outside the state of New Mexico, targeting those travelers in Arizona, Texas, and Colorado. Another part of their scope of work is the research and analytics to ensure that the money that we're investing in that marketing is providing a return on our investment and bringing people to the city of Roswell. They will help in concept development and some copywriting, primary functions, as you can see on your screen. Here is a sample budget breakdown. The difference in this contract that was negotiated was that 75% of this budget will be on placement of the media, meaning that that money will go to the radio station, to the television stations, to Google Ads, and only 25% of the budget is actually paid to 3 Advertising. Out of the past 2 previous contracts, this is the most successful contract that we've negotiated with an advertising firm. The other difference in this contract is that we as a city have allowed them to receive a commission for the work and the creative services that are placed. This ensures that they are really working in the best interests of the city of Roswell, and I will do my due diligence to ensure that they are meeting our expectations provided by you. This is budgeted in this fiscal year, and I will stand for any questions that you might have.
All right. Counselors, any questions for Ms. Jennings? Questions or comments? Counselor Henderson.
Juanita, we've been around the barn a number of times on different vendors that have provided our advertising, and is there a problem with us, or is there a problem with the advertising companies that we can't have a marriage and get along more than 1 year at a time?
I will say that I have very high expectations for our firm that is going to utilize the lodger's tax funding because we don't have a very large budget. And while we were very pleased with our previous firm that we just contracted last year with this beautiful design and the logo, we have to remember that our budget is the city of Roswell. We are not a Los Angeles or New York. And so when we go with an advertising firm that plays with national players, we didn't quite have the money to support their talent. I would say that's probably the best answer that I could give you. I'm confident in 3. I don't have a relationship with them yet, and I hope that we can have a great relationship and a good partnership. But at the same time, it's my responsibility and my role to ensure that they are spending our money in the most efficient way.
Thank you.
Counselor, we're not afraid of a marriage, but we're just looking for the right partner.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councilor Roebuck, you have the floor.
And thank you, Mr. Mayor. Having done a lot of work in this field, our situation as Roswell is definitely a difficult assignment for any ad agency, and I had a chance to sit down with Ms. Jennings and talk through this because of my interest in the subject, and I feel like that they are a good selection for us. I feel like that they're small enough to serve us, but they're big enough to give us advantage. So it might actually, this one might be a good fit. So just wanted to pass that information along. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Counselor. Anyone else? Questions, comments? If not, I'll ask for a voice vote. A yes or aye approves the contract with advertising and marketing, for 3 advertising. A yes or aye approves the contract. A no or nay rejects it. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, passes 10-0. Next up, item number 21, Counselor Stubbs.
This is my next to the last one.
All right.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, this is actually at the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission that voted 6-0, that I move to approve case number 19-023, a final plat of the La Bella Vita Summary Plat Number 2 for single-family resident lots in R4 Residential Zoning District, whose address is 2100 block of North Union, to include the findings of fact and the land use and zoning considerations.
I have a motion by Counselor Stubbs and a second by Counselor Foster to approve Planning and Zoning Case Number 19-023. Mr. Morris.
Good evening. The subject property is located in the south, to the northwest of the intersection of 19th Street and Untana. What's being proposed is a 20-unit subdivision, residential, single-family, the construction of La Bella Vita Drive, and the placement of a detention pond at the end. This is, as stated, a final plat for these 20 residential units. The final plat meets all the standards of the city subdivision code. Planning and Zoning heard this item last month and recommended approval by a vote of 7-0, and staff is recommending approval as well. One change that's from that was pointed out to us in the assurance document. Actually, there's a reference to a certain escrow company that's going to have to be modified prior to the execution of the document. So we've already talked to the applicant. They're aware of this, and we'll make those changes as they need to.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I do have one individual who has signed up to speak on this matter, Mr. Todd Wagner. If you'll come forward, state your name, your address, and you will have 3 minutes, sir.
I'm Todd Wagner, agent for Eagle Creek Villas. My address is 1410 North Missouri. I just signed up so that if I needed to, I could answer any questions you might present to me. So I don't really have anything to say except it's a good project and we want to get started.
Okay, thank you. Don't go too far away, just in case. Any questions or comments, counselors? Seeing none, I will ask for a voice vote. A yes or aye approves planning and zoning case 19-023 as presented. A no or nay rejects it. Once again, a yes or aye approves planning and zoning case 19-023. A no or nay rejects it. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, passes unanimously. Next up, Councilor Henderson.
Just clarification, on the documents, they point out that Roswell escrow.
Microphone. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
They point out in the documents that Roswell Escrow Services is the trustee, and that's what Bill was pointing out, that no longer will be. They'll appoint a different trustee.
Thank you. I appreciate that for the record. Thank you. Next up, item number 22, Councilor Stubbs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is actually coming to us from the mayor due to the time limitations, but so I will move to approve a public hearing and vote at the February 13th City Council meeting, ordinance number 20-03, amending section 15-2 of the Roswell City Code governing compensation of the municipal judge.
I have a motion by Councilor Stubbs and a second by Councilor Foster to authorize for advertisement proposed ordinance 20-03. Mr. Holloman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council. Proposed ordinance 03 addresses the question of the municipal judge salary compensation. This is set by city ordinance. Currently, it is set at $60,000. A salary cannot be adjusted during a person's time in office. So the rush at this point is to ensure that we have this first reading, the advertisement, and then the hearing before the election in March so that the incoming judge would be able to benefit from the increase as we presented it. This ordinance accomplishes two things. Number one, it provides for the initial increase over the $60,000. The second thing that it does is that it ties it, and this is similar to how other judges are set, is it ties it to a certain benchmark salary that is then a percentage of that. This says district court judge, and I think that needs to be clarified a little bit. If you read the statutes, what it says is that the legislature sets district court judge salary as X, magistrate court judge salary is a percentage of X, and then what we have done is a percentage of the magistrate court salary is what the municipal court salary is. So the hope is that in drafting it that way, we won't have to make small increases prior to each election for a municipal judge, that those can happen as those judges, the salaries of the judges are determined by the legislature, and that way that position remains competitive among other judicial officers. With that, Mayor, City Council, I would stand for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I have Councilor Henderson. Councilor, you have the floor.
Aaron, this is a two-step process, as I understand it. We pass the ordinance and the salary goes to $70,000. Then at a later date, the salary will be based on 80% of the magistrate judge. So I guess what benefit is it to take a two-step? Why don't we just make it 80% of the magistrate?
I'm happy to cover some of that too. I wanted to share a little bit more background, some comparables, so that you have a clear understanding of where we were looking with this. And so Judge Seske helped us pull some numbers together out of the basis. So in Las Cruces, the municipal judge is $120,381. The salary is calculated based on 90% of the district court judge. Santa Fe is the same, and it is based upon 90% of the state district court judge. Farmington is $85,771, and the salary is based upon 90% of the state magistrate judge. Clovis is $81,006.51, and that is salary is based upon $85,000 for the state magistrate. And Hobbs is $72,722, and the salary is based upon whatever the city council gives. The current magistrate judge's salary is $95,301.78, and the current district court judge salary is $133,756.89. With this jump, of course, we have to be able to fit it within our budget as well. And so the idea was to do it in a two-step process because, as you can tell, a $60,000 to $70,000 job, it's a $10,000 jump. In 4 years, based upon the current cost of the magistrate, where we're at currently, that number will go up again to $76,241. So the idea was to take two steps within this thing, to be kind to the budget, and make that jump in a progressive step so we can kind of manage what the impact is to us. So,
thank you. I was impressed with the municipal judge in Carlsbad. What, 36,000?
I believe so, and you know, it's through the analysis that we did, and I don't know if this is good or bad, but there is no requirement to pay the judge a salary. You know, I mean, it can be completely volunteer. So as you get into the smaller communities, there's over 100 municipal judges out there. I don't remember exactly what that number is, but there's quite a few of them. But they all have differing duties within the structure. And so there are some judges out there that are strictly required to be part-time status. Ours is a full-time judge based upon the volume of the cases that we have to go through. And so we are treating that as a full-time job rather than a part-time one. But there's a lot of different statutes out there for those cities, and of course, based upon the volume and everything else, I believe that's what triggers some of this conversation.
Thank you, Counselor. Anyone else wishing to speak on this one? This I'll ask for a roll call vote. Counselors, once again, let me reiterate, we are authorizing advertisement. We are not taking final action. That would occur only next month if this body authorizes the advertisement for a future public hearing and vote. So a yes or I authorizes advertisement for a future public hearing and final vote. A no or nay rejects that authorization. Ms. Call, please call the roll.
Counselor Henderson?
Yes.
Counselor Foster?
Yes.
Counselor Sanchez?
Yes.
Counselor Oropesa?
Yes.
Counselor Roback?
Yes.
Counselor Peterson?
No.
Counselor Kennard?
Yes.
Counselor Best?
Yes.
Counselor Moore? Counselor Stubbs?
Yes.
Motion passes 8-2.
Thank you. That concludes our agenda, but I did have one individual sign up for the public participation. Oh, wait, city manager comes first. I apologize, Mr. Nebb.
No, the public comes first. But
okay, true.
I'll get out of the way very quickly here. I'll save a lot of my comments for future meetings and everything. But as we come into the new year, we are looking at trying to make sure that there's more information flowing from the staff perspective into the city council to help you with your decision making. So one of the changes that we'll be making within the city council agenda is we'll be removing the section what's called department reports, because we're going to present the department reports at the committee level, and every department will have a monthly report to present. And it's going to cover all the little things that have happened throughout the month within there that's important to make sure that you're aware of that. I believe I shared it earlier, and I will share that again. We've divided up the departments as to which committee they will provide that report on a monthly basis, and so I'll provide that back out. But starting in March, we're going to get all those department reports into you so that you have more information at your hand on everything that's happening, and you can ask the pertinent questions to make sure that we are meeting the vision of what you set. So Other than that, we do have a workshop coming up in April. We are preparing the final agenda. We'll get that information out to you as well, too. That'll be some time on a Saturday. We try to stay off of those, but we have a few topics I know that came out of past meetings that we need to discuss. So other than that, Mayor, City Council, welcome to 2020. I see it'll be a good year, right? I see. All right.
Any questions for Mr. Nebb? All right, at this point, I have one individual signed up for public participation on non-agenda items. It's Gene Keffer. Gene Keffer. You please come forward, state your name and your address, and you will have 3 minutes, sir.
I'm Jean Keffer. I live at 408 South Missouri, and this is in reference to the city's planning on helping people fix the sidewalks. The city has received bad advice from its lawyer. It'll open the city up to lawsuits because it's a public right-of-way, and to help the homeowner, they plan on putting a lien against the home. Please do not help me. That's like a landowner and a railroad having right-of-way. Well, the bridge has to be repaired. Landowner, fix it. We'll help you. We'll put a lien against your property. Okay? The city has had that, my personal sidewalk, for 110 years and done nothing. If you want me to fix the sidewalk, then I need rent from the city for public right-of-way. Say 25 cents a day, that's fair. So you owe me $10,037.50. I would gladly use that money to fix that sidewalk. So when you consider putting a lien to help somebody, you need to reconsider it, because I guarantee lawsuits. If it's a public right-of-way, the city needs to repair it.
Thank you, sir. That concludes the council meeting agenda. It is, by my watch, 8:05 p.m. We are adjourned.